things along that line that don't manifest themselves with drugs or weapons or things like that, that there's some clues in there as well. So does that cover part of
Yes,
this?
so, and I feel, I apologize to my NRVCS partners with this, because the ultimate goal is to get help before it gets legal. So at the end of my presentation, I have an entire listing of resources for the parents through mental health,
Okay.
substance abuse, anything like that, that we can direct them toward that. So if, it may not be alcohol or substance abuse, or maybe, suicidal tendencies, it just be, they're having trouble. So it's kind of like to feel that out and kind of see what's going on. If it's, the common thing of, I'm having trouble with my homework or whatever, versus trying to be cool, hitting a vape, and now I'm hooked on the nicotine. But at the end of the presentation, I've got like probably 2 slides of nothing but contact information for community resources to get them the help that they need.
That's great. That's great.
We lead this presentation, but what I like to say is really it is a community's presentation. We have the trailer, we haul it around, it's a traveling road show, but without our partners and without the people that actually can address some of these issues that we're bringing out for parents and guardians, it's really no good. So really that's what, within RVCS and the other community partners that we have, that's the huge benefit of it.
Great.
Question and answer sessions. Do you have a question and answer sessions?
Yes, sir.
Do they hang back much to parents, or are they pretty open?
When I did the Chiefs Advisory panel, we probably talked for a good 30 minutes after I got done. And then the conversations that I've had with some community members to look to get this going, I mean, I'm looking at, like, instead of a question of a 2-minute question, it ends up being a 15-minute conversation. So it does open up a lot of dialogue to kind of, and a lot of, like I said, parents just, they don't know. And I have conversation with parents almost on a daily basis just to kind of say, this is what's going on, these are the trends, and kind of help them help their kids and that sort of thing.
And that's really why we wanted our SROs to lead these presentations, because they're seeing this every day. We wanted to stay current. I don't know what they're doing as the chief. That's really why we wanted these guys leading the presentation. I think what you find, I know with the Chiefs Advisory Panel, I think it was very eye-opening. Props and the different things. We really want to make it as real life and interactive as possible. So, the bedroom is not, organized and orderly and neat normally. So we want to make it possible and put things in there.
That's great.
So a quick question about the trailer. Is that simulating a bedroom? Do you have, or is it mainly just for the
That
props?
just transport it.
That's our traveling road show and advertising.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Thank
And
you.
that was part of the grant. We got that trailer, and another shout out to Science Systems. They partnered with us to do the graphics that's on it. I apologize, I had a picture print off for you guys, and I left it, so. But no, that's just, that transports all of our equipment to it. And like I said, we got, like I said, a bed frame, so there's a lot of props that I would bring in. I mean, it takes a little bit to set it up. But yeah, that's just the travel part, but it does promote our partners with what we got, plus the hips and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a rolling billboard as well.
If someone is interested, if there's a community organization that would like to learn about this and get more information and possibly have you come and do a demonstration, what's the process for that? What should they do?
Sergeant Emily Height is our, what's her, I guess, the community.
She's community outreach sergeant, but she's kind of compiling, not only people that are interested, but really keeping track of how many of these we're doing and things like that. So we're running it all through Emily right now.
Okay, thank you.
You have anything?
Yeah, thank you for coming in. I was curious, you mentioned 2 trends. You mentioned sexting and vapes in particular. Are there any other trends that parents should be aware of that you're seeing right now as an SRO? And then second part of that question is, I imagine in these conversations you're also learning things from parents it's not just, certain parents being naive to some things. You're also going to say, oh, you find out that, oh, my child did X, Y, or Z, and that's going to give a new avenue to you. So I was wondering if you have had any examples of those.
Absolutely.
as well.
So I found a new hiding spot because, again, the kids' rooms were kind of trashed. And I had a kid who was hiding his marijuana in an old Xbox box. So you buy the Xbox, you hook it up, and it was like in a pile of like shoe boxes and stuff in his closet. And that's where he come out, and I was like, okay, now I know a hidey hole for that. But for trend-wise, I mean, the vapes, The dab pens, which is like a vape with THC oil in it, sexting, the online communication that they're doing, that's where the technology is kind of, as much as I hate to say it, it's a hindrance. Because there is sexting, because I mean, they're teenagers that are doing teenager stuff. But I also deal with like threats, you know, the online bullying. So it kind of branches out to the risky behavior, because you have two kids beefing, and when we were probably growing up, once you left school, it was over unless you lived in the same neighborhood. Now they go home, and the problems and the online and the arguments continue. So what happens is, what goes from just some words that you can kind of squash and go on, they go home, they start making threats. Now we got felony, because to send a threat in writing is a felony. I don't want it to get to that level, but that's what they're doing. So the trends, like I said, some of the drug trends right now, it's like my vapes, the dab pens, some marijuana, but then with the electronic stuff as a whole, you know, those trends branch off on themselves.
And really, a lot of these topics too, you know, like you said, risky behaviors, drugs, sexting, online safety. I mean, you can spend an hour on internet safety with parents. You can spend an hour on drug usage and addiction and all these different things. So we really do hit a lot of them at a very high level and really just spark conversation. So what we're hoping is that parents and guardians, grandparents, you know, aunts, uncles, they see this and they're like, oh wow, you know, we really need something more with internet safety. We need something more with, you know, drug uses and addiction. And, you know, really either us or some of our community partners here in Radford, they can provide that to parents or civic groups or churches or whoever we're doing it for. So.
And some of the parents' conversations that I've had, I'm honest with them, I was like, if you don't know, Google it. I do it almost every other day, because if I hear a term or I see something that I don't understand, that I've not seen before, Google it. And I was like, and I tell them, like, don't just take the first website, you know, get 3, 4, 5 down, like actually go through and research it, because that's how you'll find it, because these kids are truly ahead of us when it comes to technology and the trends. I even tell them, even with clothing, certain clothing apparel and brands promote alcohol and drug use. One of the things I learned in a conference, American Eagle, who tends to be more toward the younger audience, were selling flip-flops with a bottle opener on it. Well, I mean, I see a lot of kids with American Eagle, Abercrombie, and all these other trends. And again, you know, college kids may be shopping at American Eagle, but I also see a lot of my high school kids wearing that apparel, and they're selling a flip-flop with a bottle opener. That just shows, I don't know that a lot of RC Colas and Pepsi that still have a bottle opener. I mean, but that's what I tell parents. I was like, just look into it, look deeper beyond the label and the price tag. What are they actually wearing, and what are they promoting? And there is some apparel in that presentation that goes into that, to look for, the hidden underlying signs to look for.
Conversations.
Absolutely.
Start conversations.
Charlie, you have anything?
Cartridges, just sort of. Like USB thumb drive.
So they've gone beyond that, because I've seen one kid charging the vape battery in his Chromebook. But now it's you know, instead of finding the vape ones, it's almost cheaper just to buy the disposable ones. They're like $20, and you chuck them in the trash can when you're done. Exactly, and then you know, I even tell them this, because with vapes, because it's the fruity flavors that they're selling, you're not smelling weed, you're not smelling the cigarette smoke. If you walk in and you smell cotton candy, I mean, it may be cotton, you know, it may be a daughter that wears a little cotton candy perfume, but if they ain't wearing cotton candy perfume, why are you smelling cotton candy? So it's stuff like that that's like, makes you think, like, huh, just questions, and to look deeper.
Speaking of that, you let them smell what it smells like for some of these things, like the,
I try to, but some of them, you can't really, because the disposable ones are kind of all enclosed. So unless you actually just take the head off of it and blow the vapor out, you really can't smell the oil that's in it. Some of them that you can, and that's another thing I've seen, is they'll hijack them. So instead of you'll get one, and they're smart enough to kind of disassemble it, so now you can buy a whole bottle of the refill and refill one that's supposed to be disposable. So I've seen that kind of stuff. So if I can get them to smell it, and if I can find one that, like I said, it tends to wear out. It ages, so. But it's the common smells of the fruity, the fruit punch, the cotton candy, the blue raspberry. Watermelon's a big one. I mean, it's the fruity smells that we're going to get a whiff of.
So thank you for this presentation, and thank you for what you're doing. I do have some questions about how we're going to monitor all of this. And do you think that this would be part of our annual report on the presentations given, and then maybe also a comparison? I know it's going to take a little time of actual incidences, like things that you might have had to enforce previously, or other incidences, to see if we can spot trends where this is maybe helpful. I think that would just be helpful to us to be able to see, okay, we've done 75 presentations, 500 people have seen it, and we've seen a reduction of 12% of, whatever.
Yeah, I think that's easily done. We definitely are going to be tracking how many presentations we do, and then obviously any reportable incidents that we have at the school. Not only do we keep track of that, but the school, I think, is
Right,
mandated to report.
right. I'd just be curious. I think that's helpful to us to know, how's it making a difference, and how can we continue to invest in our citizens that way. But thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Okay, council, moving on to old business. We are taking a look at the vacation of the right-of-way. Earlier this year, we found out that we did own a piece of land we weren't so sure we owned. The trustees for the Clarence Sowers Estate have requested the vacation of an alleyway between Oakland Avenue and Forest Avenue. It's 20 feet wide and 175 feet long, and it basically separates their house from their garage. So a couple of things have happened. We scheduled a public hearing for September 26th. That was advertised. There were no comments or objections. Then we did schedule a 3-member board of viewers group to take a look at it. There had to be a slight adjustment to that on what our initial proposal was, but those folks met on October the 5th. They found no conflicts. In fact, you all have a copy of the report. So we have that information, and it looked good from the board of viewers. So we have 2 actions tonight that we need to take a look at. First and foremost, I need a motion to receive the report of the Board of Viewers, and a second on that. So do you have a motion to do so? We have a motion. Do we have a second? A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And to go on and to vacate this land and to allow it to go to the Sowers Estate, we have to request that the city attorney draft an ordinance. Do we have a motion to do that?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, moving on. We are looking to add someone to our beautification commission. I believe, Jesse, you had a nominee with, it's Jennifer, correct? Jessica, sorry. Did you get in touch with her?
She has not sent me an email back. I've asked her for a letter of interest.
Okay.
She sounded really excited in doing it.
I
So,
gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah, I know Jessica. I don't know why I called her Jennifer. I just like that Jenny name, right? That must be it. Okay, so we will wait until we hear back from her and put this on the agenda for next time.
I'll reach out to her as well and tell her to reach to you.
And if there are any other people interested in our Beautification and Municipal Forestry Commission, let us know. We do still have 3 additional slots available, and we would love to add folks on that are interested in flowers and trees here in the city of Bradford. Moving on to our next line of business, Ordinance 1772. We are looking at a vacation of right-of-way for Price Williams. I'm going to ask David to update us on this because we're not going to be able to move forward with that tonight. David?
Yeah, yes, thank you, Mayor. As you all are aware, we've got about 7 vacations of right-of-way that were requested several months ago. We've been through the public hearing process, that kind of thing. All this is, the property owner's getting some surveys done because there's probably some places where they don't want to acquire the land because there's so many right-of-ways, so we're getting that verified, so when the ordinance comes back around, we can have the correct amount for the valuation and for the ordinances. So no problems with the request. It's just taking a little time to do some extra due diligence on this, so we'll have it on the agenda until we have it finished up. So hopefully we'll have something by the next month's meetings.
Okay, Thank you very much. Moving on to ordinance 1773, it's rezoning a parcel of land, 8.5 acres, that's currently M2 heavy industrial, rezoning to B1 limited business, 10 Forest Avenue. We did have a public hearing with the Planning Commission in June. Planning Commission reviewed the application in July and voted to recommend approval. We received the report on September 22nd and approved the ordinance on its first reading. Actually, we received the report on September 26th, correct? Yep, we did. And approved the ordinance 1773 on its first reading. Council members, do you all have any questions or concerns before we look at ordinance 1773 for its second reading? Do we have a motion to approve ordinance 1773 on its second reading? We have a motion. Do we have a second? A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Congratulations. Absolutely. And we did spend a good bit of time on this at our last meeting, going through everything and talking through a lot of these issues. So I think we have exhausted most of that. So I think we're in pretty good shape there. Council members, you all have received several pieces of information regarding the Opioid Remediation Commission. Just a little history on this, the city has participated in some litigation regarding the opioid epidemic. Part of this is the national issue that has been faced on a Radford level, and we will be receiving some proceeds from that litigation settlement with a variety of different defendants. As such, we're holding those proceeds separate. One of the requirements is that the vast majority of the money be used for remediation, whether it be treatment, education, programming, whatever that happens to look like. One of the things that we thought would make sense, rather than to simply adopt this into the budgets of the currently existing organizations that are already working with these things, is to maybe look at creating something a little different and something that would be new, not only for Radford, but maybe even for the Commonwealth, where a group of citizens could take a look at what's out there, ideas, to ask people to submit concepts on how best to address this problem, and that they could then make recommendations to council on how best to appropriate that money on an annual basis. Now, $70,000 to $80,000 a year isn't all the money in the world, and that's about what we're anticipating our annual disbursement to be. But it certainly could go a long way in helping a variety of different programs and maybe piloting something that would do something very different for folks. Part of my hope with this is that we can engage people who have struggled with addiction, who have had family members involved with addiction, who have experienced it on a firsthand level. So often with this, we look at it at the 30,000-foot level, and it's programming that logically may make sense, but is it what really makes a difference to the person who's using, to the person who's struggling, and where could those inflection points be along the way? So I'm hoping we can get there with it. What we have here is a draft resolution to create an opioid abatement commission. And I'm not going to go into all the details. I think you all have maybe had a chance to look at it. Basically, I will read this a couple of sections here. The purpose of the commission shall be to evaluate potential uses of the funds and make recommendations to City Council that promote the abatement and remediation of the impacts of the opioid epidemic within the city, including, without limitation, consideration of services or other efforts to treat, prevent, and reduce opioid user disorder and the misuse of opioids. We're looking at a potential 7-member commission appointed for staggered 4-year terms. Initial terms upon creation of the commission shall be distributed as 4 members serving 4-year terms, 3 members serving 2-year terms, and then successors shall all be appointed for 4-year terms. That way we have some continuity. It's determined that it is in the best interest of the city. Council may appoint 1 or more members to the commission who are non-residents of the city. The commission shall be advisory in nature and can take a look at this list of opioid remediation uses. And I do think that is a big role for the commission, and one of the things we'll need to do as we charge this group of citizens to kind of work through this some to say, what are we trying to do? How are we going to judge the different concepts that are brought before us? Are there some mechanisms that can be provided by the Virginia Municipal League that Dr. Harshberger just attended, or other organizations nationwide, Commonwealth-wide, that can help provide information? One piece that's important, action will only take place if a quorum is present. They can still have discussions, but they cannot make recommendations without a majority of the members present. So that's kind of where we are with this. What questions, thoughts, or comments do you all have on the draft resolution?
I just want to say, I think we're ahead of the curve compared to, I was at VML, and I think we're farther along in most communities when it comes to this. So I think this is a good move on our part. I think it's well studied. I think it will pay dividends.
I have a fairly theoretical question, and I am very wide open on this one. I would really appreciate people's thoughts. I'm reading this and thinking about this board as being an advisory commission. I'm just thinking of different scenarios. One that has popped into my mind that makes me very nervous, the idea that this advisory commission program or an idea, they hear something that is really, that they feel very strongly about, they work hard to develop this idea. Because it's an advisory commission, it then comes in fact, we're going to use the money. The advisory board really says is a bad idea. I'm wondering if there are, and I recognize the complexity and how without council necessarily needing to approve it. And, you know, having said that in that way, I go back and forth on the merits of that, because you want the board to be able to support its programs, or the commission to support its programs that it finds merit. At the same time, council does need to have some approval process. So theoretically,
Yes, we ran into this. I know it's one of the things I dealt with at Virginia Tech when I was there. And that is when you set up these commissions and so on, it has to be made very clear what the expectations are and the limitations. And in this case, we're saying right from the beginning that it's advisory. And the thing is, you don't want them to be all in on a recommendation. It is a recommendation. So what we've tried to do, I know when I was setting some of these up, was they say that we would like not a single approach to something, but try to give us 3 alternatives to something. 3 alternatives that you can look at. So we have something to work with here as a council when they come in, you know, with their recommendation.
I want to add to this, I think, you know, at the end of the day, we are the stewards, and we have to make sure that, you know, we rightfully should be held accountable for where funding goes and how it's allocated. So I also am in agreement that I think being right up front that it's advisory. But what I've also found is, at least up until this point, our advisory committees have been very thoughtful and very thorough, and usually it has been the will of council to take their recommendations. Sometimes we may have more questions, and there may be more communication and deliberation, but I still feel at the end of the day, we have to take responsibility, and the buck has to stop with us with this. And I wouldn't even want to put that on an advisory committee, you know, to be honest. But I do think your concern is valid in regards to we have to give proper credence as a council to the work that they're doing. And I think by setting this council up, I think that shows putting that best foot forward that we really want their input. And I just think if you look at past precedents, we usually, when they come and make a presentation, it's pretty thorough. So I'm not terribly concerned, and I also just don't want to negate the fact that at the end of the day, we are the ones that will be held accountable, and it should be, I think.
I think, oh, good.
I'd piggyback on, ask the commission to come forward
The other thing is, and I agree with you, and the other thing is, we want to encourage them to bring in resources. Like, I mentioned a few to, I wrote a note to David, and a few, there's people like Bill Flattery, going to be heavily impacted on some of the things they might decide to do. He's the CEO of Carillion. They can call him in as a resource, and we should encourage that they bring in, and they'll have very good resources available to them. Like, well, it could go on and on. Our CARES executive director, which is really important for reentry people coming from the prisons, you know, to be brought in. So, but they can bring them in as resources to help them see the impact it can, the potential impact of what they're proposing.
Well, and one other piece with this is don't necessarily look at it as the group does all its work, gives us a recommendation, and we vote on it. I see this being much more akin to the way we work with some of our other boards and commissions, where they may go out and do some research, they may talk with other people and get some ideas put together, vetted a little bit, but then we have a work session. And we talk through multiple things. And it may be that we decide to do 10 $7,000 grants or 2 $35,000 grants for a year, or whatever that happens to look like. But I think the important thing with this is a couple of pieces. First of all, we all have so many things on our plate. And this is a fairly substantial thing to add to it. But if we could ask a group to help us lift part of the load, then based on that advice, based on that expertise of people that maybe are seeing it on a daily basis, that are experiencing it with their families, or that are recovering addicts, which I'm hopeful that we can get several members of the group from that particular population, because I think that's most crucial. Too often we have folks who maybe have received an education or have worked with folks who've engaged with it, but they're not necessarily people who've lived it. And I think that's a really important piece. That's where I think our education would take place, of someone saying, that doesn't work. This works, and here's why. And that's helpful for me. And the thing I'm most hopeful about with this is that this might be a model, not just for our community, but for other communities. And that what comes out of this, because again, this is not a massive amount of money, but it could be pilots that could grow into other concepts that could help people in ways we're not helping right now. So that's the hope with where we can go. But your point is valid. I can't promise you a future council won't go, nah, I'd rather buy more rec department equipment, or I think we'll put this just with this budget, or whatever. That's always possible. But I think this gives us the best shot, particularly with the makeup of the commission. If we actually find people who are going to be honest with us about what works and what doesn't work, what is in the system now and what could be added to the system, that's going to help whoever is sitting here and whoever's making this decision 10 years from now as we go through this process to be best informed to try to make an impact.
And I think that, you know, what you're hearing from me is this concern. I think you've actually used the term that you want to be very protective of these funds before, because we do want to make sure that we're not just siphoning them into some program that we can't necessarily see results, quantitative results from. And so I do want to, I appreciate all of these thoughts, because it's very helpful, and it really is, you're all, I think you're all absolutely right. And I do think that it just gives us this, I want this commission to feel empowered to do the work that we all are very guarded of, you know, making sure that it is programs that are going to really help the communities that it's designed to help.
Absolutely.
So, thank you.
I agree
appreciate that.
completely. Are there any other thoughts, questions, concerns before we move forward with a motion? Do we have a motion to adopt the draft resolution to create an opioid abatement commission for the city of Bradford? So moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It is resolved that because this is a bit of an emergency measure, we can dispense with a second reading since we have had 4 affirmative votes. We don't actually need to vote.
this is just resolution. You're good.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, but it will take effect immediately without a second reading.
Appoint your committee tonight if you're ready to go.
Actually, I'd like to hold off unless we all have names. I would like to say I have 3 or 4 names, but I don't want to be the only person appointing people. I'd like us to be thoughtful, and again, based on the discussion we've had here tonight, who are people who could give us the straight dope, so to speak, on this and could help us understand it a little bit better. So if we can bring those names to our next meeting, I think that would be extremely helpful to us, and we can go from there.
Someone already has a name. I know Councilman Cosamato had reached out to me about someone potentially. Could we go ahead and give Jen the name so she can make contact? with
Sure,
them?
let's give we can give the names to Jenny, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I've got 3 or 4, but what I don't want to do is start appointing, 2/3 of the commission, and then we come and say, oh, wait, so-and-so reached out. I've actually reached out to a couple of groups that are working with folks, and I'm actually looking at getting a couple of names of people who are working on their recovery right now. So hopefully we'll have some folks identified.
Yeah, I think we can go to some people who wouldn't be on the commission, but who could recommend people.
Absolutely.
Like Dr. Bassell and.
Absolutely.
And Vicki Collins.
And the other piece of this too, we have the opportunity to work with this group pretty extensively to have a lot of, as Dr. Harshberger mentioned, resources available to help advise. I don't expect them to be experts in everything. They're experts in their experience. And that's what's most important to me with this, is that they can bring something to the table that I can't necessarily get through any amount of research and other information that someone who's lived this life, whether it's their family or themselves, can help us with. So if we could do that, give the names to Jenny and we can continue to research it, and then we'll rock and roll from there. Okay, thank you all very much. This is an exciting piece. I'm just going to wax poetic for a second. We've been talking about this for 4 years. That at first we weren't sure that this was something that we needed to address fully in the city of Radford. Over that time, it's become more and more clear that there is an issue and that it continues to worsen rather than lighten, and that we need to find solutions that can help people that go down this path. So this gives us the best option to do that. Plus, it's not only this $70,000 that we can look at or so. The state will have millions of dollars available. So these good ideas that are maybe piloted could become big ideas that receive additional funding throughout the state, and we go from there. Okay, thank you very much. Chief,
Called leadership.
yeah, well, Chief, I'm excited to ask you to come forward to help us with this next section. We have an appropriation ordinance 1763.10 to deal with some asset forfeiture. And I'm going to be 100% up front. I'm always nervous when we talk about this because anytime we've had an asset forfeiture for someone, I always like to think it through with what we're doing and how we're using the monies and everything. Chief, you've asked to use $77,221. Can you first talk a little bit about where some of this asset forfeiture money came from and then how we're going to employ some of this?
So, I think it's pretty timely tonight that we're talking about the opioid settlement and, how that's ravaged communities in the Commonwealth tremendously. A lot of families and a lot of lives have been impacted because of that. So in 1990, I believe November 1990, the voters in Virginia actually voted for asset forfeiture and said that law enforcement could benefit from the proceeds of property and cash and things like that for certain offenses, drug offenses. And I can tell you where that's important because as we've identified, it is an issue in the Commonwealth. It's a public health emergency, been declared by the state. And not only do we want folks to know that, hey, if you are involved with spreading poison in our communities, you're going to be arrested and prosecuted, but we're going to take your money. We're going to take your property. And a lot of these drug distributors going to jail, going to prison, that's a part of doing business. But if you attack their money, that disrupts an operation. We're not talking a low-level user in the community. We're talking people that are distributing narcotics in our community. So that's a little bit about asset forfeiture. What we want to use that for, it's $77,000 is what we have. We don't intend to use that entire amount. This is one of those accounts that rolls over every year. I can tell you last year was the biggest year for us for asset forfeiture. We used about $20,000 last year for it. And some of the things that we bought last year was portable radios. We bought a training dummy for our LawFit course, the dummy that we drag on that. Our dummy was leaking. It was leaking sand. So a 150-pound dummy made it down pretty quick to 120 pounds. So we needed a new dummy. We bought polygraph equipment at about $7,500 for that. And then we also used this money for investigative purposes. So we use it to further investigations that we need with our criminal investigations folks. This year we have some things we want to do with equipment, upgrade some equipment. We also had our church safety presentations that we've put one on so far. We have a second one. That's being paid for by asset forfeiture this year. And our, I think the biggest and most important of what we're going to use asset forfeiture this year is training and career development. One of the biggest ways that you impact an organization is leadership development. So we have really made a concerted effort to educate our supervisors, and I mean, we've brought FBI leadership courses here to Radford, really focusing on leadership education. So not tapping into the training budget that the city has given us, but using some of that for a good use.
I wanted to ask you a question with this, specifically with one of the things we talked about last time. I'm really excited for the license plate cameras because I feel like they can address some of these issues head on. Is it possible to use some of this money to purchase some of the additional portable versions of those, or have you already spoken for this entire amount this year with what you have planned?
We have a couple things planned. That certainly would be, you know, and I do want to make it very clear, asset forfeiture is governed by the state, it's governed
Right.
by law. We got really strict reporting requirements on this, but I think the flock cameras would certainly be an allowable expense, so we could look at getting
I'm
another one or two.
excited for those because I feel like that can be a real community asset to maybe address some of these issues directly. If we know someone is potentially engaged in this kind of activity and we have to monitor for that, we may be able to eliminate some of it through that. So I just wondered if that was a possibility, and some other things that, again, could directly go right to the heart of some of these issues so that we have a better grip on what's happening and how we can address it and go from there.
Sure.
Council members, do you all have any other questions?
Yeah, I just want for clarity purposes, so these funds are currently held by the DCJS, is that how that works? And so
Yeah.
we're approving a request to that fund, is that?
So DCJS doesn't hold the funds. We hold the funds. There's a cooperative agreement. When we seize assets, let's say we seize somebody's assets on a drug investigation, a distribution investigation, part of that money goes to the police department. There's some money that goes to the Commonwealth Attorney, and then there's some money that goes to DCJS. It's all in addition to a criminal trial that somebody, like if we seize your assets today, you're going to go through a criminal trial for your wrongdoing that you've done, but you're also going to go through a separate civil trial for your money. And the judge is going to decide, hey, does the assets belong to the Commonwealth and the police department, or does it go back to the person? So, and that could be a car, cash, boat, house, whatever assets
Now,
that were
everything
used.
we're talking about here, though, is liquid.
Yes.
So all of that process has been gone through, and
Yep.
any appeals have already been exhausted with all
Absolutely.
of that. So-
Absolutely.
So we
Yep.
have given due process to this, and the decision has been made, this will be used within this program.
No, we're not using anybody's money that hasn't been forfeited to us and gone through the courts or anything like that. It doesn't even belong to us until that happens.
Okay? Any further questions?
You know, I have to ask, how are we now? I know we were working out some kinks with our e-ticketing. Is that now completed? Do all the cars oh, no.
So e-ticketing's good. It's funny you mentioned that because the Court of Virginia today, there were some issues with some logins and things
remember
like
that.
that. So it's temporarily down today. And I just got an email today, and you just happened to ask about that, Jesse. But I'm sure that's just a password issue or something on the
Okay.
state. And it's
Well-
the state's end. not
Well, and I
our end.
remember there was some controversy with that, so I didn't know if that had settled out yet, or?
It's nothing on our end at this
Right.
point. It's the state system's down. We just
Okay,
got an
so-
email from the records manager just earlier today saying that the state system was down, so.
Okay, but when it's up and running, are
Good.
all of our cars now?
We got the equipment, we've purchased the
We have
equipment,
the
that's all good.
printers and
Printers,
everything's
all
good? You have all that? Good,
Yep.
perfect. Now, I know you had mentioned before they were working out some of the kinks in regards to if it was going to be lawful, or if they were going to allow it or not allow some of that? Do you remember?
So I think what we had referred to then was there was an issue in Northern Virginia about a signature. They were requiring a signature on the summonses, and I think that all got worked out.
Okay.
Because we've been using them, so.
Okay.
Any
Very glad I had a conversation with the chief before we came in here, because one of the things I was going to suggest using some of this money for was drones. One of the most fascinating sessions I attended was the one featuring the use of drones by our emergency response teams. And we had a wonderful drone flying in our meeting room and spying on us and displaying its findings on the big screen. They're being used for analyzing oil spills and mob control strategies, homicides, active shooters, drugs, prostitutions, illegal drug busts, and suspicious packages, to name just some of the uses. But I found out that the chief is way ahead of us. They've got a grant in now seeking to get a drone and having funding for it. So we'll hold off on that, but it's something I think will be a great asset for our police department to have.
I don't want to get our hopes up, but from what I understand, the grant's pretty far progressed and pretty far along in the review process, so we're hopeful that that's going to work out, so.
That's great.
Any further question or comments? Do we have a motion to approve appropriation ordinance 1763.10 in the amount of $77,221?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Having heard 4 affirmative votes, we can dispense with a second reading if so desired. Is there a motion to do so? We have a motion. Do we have a second? A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, Chief. All right, that is all of our business tonight. David, what do you have for us?
Well, we've got a lot going on, and since our last 2 meetings have been extensively long, I get to talk for a minute this time, but I'll go through a few of the things that we've got going on. Leaf collection program starts November the 1st. We were going to start it on Monday, but since it is Halloween, I think there is a plan to have the trick-or-treat trail down on Main Street, so a lot of our Public Works folks are going to be tied up with that, so we will start it on Tuesday. We'll run it through December. We're going to start out with 2 trucks, and we've got the potential of adding 3 since we've got our numbers up in Public Works now. So we're going to try to run 3 trucks this year to hopefully get everything done by the time we get to the end of December. It's good to be able to pick everything up before ice starts hitting and things start freezing on the ground, leaves get stuck. So
And we lose our grass.
yes, and we will put something out on the website with the map in the next week or so. So that just so you know where that is. Extensive number of projects going on. If you haven't gotten a chance, Oakley Park is moving along. We've painted the goals now. The sidewalk has now been put in. That was finished up yet today. The fence has been ordered to separate Public Works. Going to really be a nice addition to the community out there to eliminate that kind of uglier fence that we've got between Public Works and this playground. So a lot of good things going on. I think the police department's going to work with us on fixing the shelter up out there. So really a lot of improvements in the equipment's already in that we funded with Melissa through the CDBG program. So good on that part of it. East Main Street project is advancing pretty quickly now. So we've got an ARC release, so we're starting to move into the engineering once all of the survey work has been done. Design will be underway to move forward with the concepts that you all saw at the last 2 meetings ago, I guess it is now, to have those ready to go and start hopefully seeing some things happening in the spring with some of the construction pieces. So anxious about that. If you saw a couple of markers at the Triangle lot, we are going to be adding the other end of the lights that are overhead. We're going to put those on the other end of the Triangle lot. So that should be really bright, look good for a lot of activities as we approach the holidays. That work will be happening over the next week or so. And then we've got the contract signed for pickleball courts. The contractor, to give us a good price, wanted us to wait till spring. But that'll be a complete renovation of the tennis courts at Bissett Park, and then to add pickleball courts to half of the tennis courts. Five pickleball courts. So that's a big thing. Municipal building paving, striping, Crosswalk, all of those things have been completed. We're starting the next phase of that next week, which will be the painting of the outside of the building, and then some improvements to the restrooms and hallways on the inside of the building. The asphalt project has been approved by VDOT. We're moving forward with them pretty quickly. Most likely will be a spring project, but you all will see they've done something different this time. This is the project that we've got to pave all of East Main Street from about the entrance to Bissett Park all the way to the city, almost to the city limits. So one of the largest paving projects we've gotten from VDOT, so it's going to be great to get that underway. Something you're going to see different on this at the next meeting, most likely. They're now requiring just a resolution of support. Even though VDOT's going to administer it and there's no required funds, it's nice to see at the bottom of the contract it says 0 on our end, so that's great. The good thing about this is then that allows us, when paving prices come down through the winter and hopefully through the winter and into next year, we'll be able to do more of our paving projects. As you know, we did not do any 22 stuff because paving prices had gotten so high, so we're hoping to be able to do more streets and more paving in the FY 22-23 and combine both years together and get about $600,000 or $700,000 worth of paving projects throughout our community. So good thing with that. We're excited. ARC is giving us $7,000. The governor announced that for the mural project that we talked about with our East Main Street project, and that's to tie us better to how close you are to the river and where it is and all of that. So that project details will be coming, but great to get that announcement. So we're being very successful on all the grants that we're going for, and the ones that the chief had mentioned. All departments are working hard towards any kind of grant so we can find out there, looking at all the infrastructure funding that might be available, anything of public safety, anything that might improve schools or housing resources, things like that. So a number of different things out there. Few coming out on economic development. They tend to be more with the tourism side. We have logged into that, and we are looking for, Naomi, you may remember, it might be like as much as $20,000, $25,000 that may be coming, we may have access to help us in marketing for tourism. So we are signed up, and we'll be able to do that once those programs are released. I think that's it. A ton of economic development, community development projects citywide. We were adding up numbers today. We're about $8 million worth of projects. The hotel will be coming online within the next 30 to 60 days, supposedly. So we've got a number of housing and commercial projects all along East and West Main Street, and a number of, probably the largest number of housing projects, everything from apartments to patio homes to single-family homes. So, and a wide range of pricing for all of those. Good. So that's good news for the economic development side and community development side for things that we need. I missed one project, skate park. The foundation has been dug up. If you can go down there and look, you can see how it's going to be nice. It's going to be large. Had to adjust it slightly as things happen. We found a storm line that was hidden under at that far into the ground. It was not mapped and did not show up on anything, so we've had to adjust about 10 feet. Not a big deal.
Murphy's Law.
Yep, not a big deal. Puts us a little closer to the river, but still should be out of floodway. So excited about that. Still on schedule once pavement's done. The concrete work is done. We got some nice amenities around the outside. American Ramp will come in and actually put the ramp in, and still anticipating that it may be open by first or second week of November. A ton of special events have been going on over the past 3 weeks, really, since August, really month. Those are starting to wind down as we head towards the more holiday-type things going forward. Great attendance by nearly every event. We had some rain issues with a few of them, but we always like to see those folks from out of town come in and shop and eat here. That's our goal with all of our tourism activities, so good things from that end. We are underway with audit. This is that time of year we start looking pretty tired. So that's underway. Expect a preliminary audit sometime in the beginning part of December. I think that's it. Thank you.
Naomi, what do you have? First and foremost, congratulations on your new arrival. We're happy that she's here, and we're happy you're back. Now, what do you have?
Well, that was going to be the first thing.
Sorry.
Mom.
Sorry.
No, I appreciate
Go ahead and boast.
I was going to tell everybody thank you so much for all of the well wishes from everyone in the community, everyone here in this room. Hunter was born just over 2 weeks ago, and she is a healthy and very happy. Well, she's a very serious baby. She does have a very serious face most of the time, but she is just a delight, and everybody is doing very well at home. So thank you all so much for the support. I also wanted to say happy early birthday to my firstborn. Rory will be 2 tomorrow, so that's also very exciting in our household. And last but not least, I would like to say thank you to the community church for all of the notes and well wishes that they sent our way. They are truly uplifting, and they are just so appreciated. So I just wanted to say for really uplifting my spirits. It was.
Thank you very much. All right, Jesse, what do you have?
I just wanted to let everyone know that we have spent a great deal of time welcoming the new RU president. So we have had the occasion to attend a couple events at his house as well as the inauguration. And I'm very, very excited about collaborating with RU at I think a greater level than maybe what we've done in the past. So they're very open, very eager, and the new president seems to be just absolutely thrilled to be here. He told me that he truly hopes that we like him because he has no intention of going anywhere. He wants to retire here. So I said, well, yeah, if people leave, they try to come back too, trust me. So just a shout out to the new president. We are thrilled to have him here, and we were all in attendance at one or more events. The other thing, I had a quick question about the Triangle Park. I know we were getting a bike station there.
We are not sure we've got quite the room for it, so we're looking for another location.
Okay.
There on West Main that
Okay.
still stays on the 76 trail.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Price went up slightly on those, but still not significant. We've got one ordered. We just got to figure out location for it.
Okay.
It's probably going to be late winter before it arrives.
Okay, all right. I was following up
Sorry, I
with
didn't mean to
the,
send you all a note on that.
Yeah,
Glad
that's
you brought
okay.
it up. Thank you.
yes. Also, everyone get your pickleball teams together. It looks like we are going to have some competitions. Oh. Did anyone want to explain it? I don't play it, but it is extremely popular, and I think it's the fastest growing sport.
So it is yeah, I was going to say it's a combination of 3 or 4 sports utilizing a lower net than tennis. It utilizes a ball that's kind of like a wiffle ball, although not exactly the same, and paddles that are more like ping pong paddles, but larger. And so the whole idea is it gives you some aerobic activity without being quite as
Smaller.
dynamic.
It's
It is.
Smaller.
It's smaller,
Right.
and it
Me
doesn't
too.
run you around quite as much as tennis. So,
So you don't have to run about as much, but you still are very
but
active.
it is very competitive. And it is very addictive from what we can tell. And we already have, we'll tell you what, come up to the Radford Recreation Center. They have an indoor pickleball league that takes place today.
And I got to
So-
tell you, one of the people who is addicted to it is our new First Lady, the wife of our president of Radford University, Kay Danilowitz, who is a big pickleball.
You have a team of 2.
There you go.
So you're off to a good start. So I've heard great things about it. So I'm excited because maybe I will have some athletic prowess with that because I certainly don't have it anywhere else. And I just wanted to remind everyone, on the 22nd, we do have our Craft and Draft event. So I hope to see everyone out there, and that's all for me.
All right, thank you very much. Dick, you went to the Municipal League and you gave us this great report. But what would you like to tell us this evening, real quick?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say the inauguration was really great. I was proud to represent my doctoral alma mater and march with my regalia in the processional for NC State. But I was really proud of our mayor. He gave a short, eloquent, hard-hitting talk from the dais, and we were very proud of you.
Thank you.
It was well done.
Emphasis on short.
Well
That was it.
received, and really good.
Thank you.
I was one of over 600 local government officials, thanks to the city here to allowing me to go, at the Virginia Municipal League meeting in Richmond. And 22 educational sessions, 10 round tables, 5 mobile workshops. Now, there's a hitch in that. I was one person. I couldn't possibly hit much of that. But we must think about maybe more people going in the future. Matt Lehrman was a Social Prosperity Partners who spoke on, the theme was civility, and he spoke on from conflict to conversation on Sunday. So we were there for that. And then I was honored to be asked to serve as one of the 4 panel members who led the discussion on from conflict to conversation and advised the audience of about 150, 200 attendees. I drew on my wife's book, and I quoted from her book, Plato, "Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle."
And for those of you that don't know, she writes the book on etiquette literally, not figuratively. She wrote the book on etiquette, so.
Yes, and then I used a theme, and I was the only one that did that, but I used the theme of apathy, empathy, and transparency. And I took off on that. And then we got to the point, and they were saying about the problems they have in city council meetings and town council meetings, and I said, whoa, 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 what are you doing? I said, let me tell you how we structure our city council meetings. Right here it is. I said, we start out, after we have the Pledge of Allegiance, we have citizen comments. And they're allowed 3 minutes. And I said, our mayor has a timer. And he times them for 3 minutes, I said. And then the city council members have a minute of response. They go, is that all they get to talk? I said, no. We go through our everything we're doing, and then we get to where we are right now. I said, each council member can say what they want at the end. And it was like they'd never heard of such a thing, a lot of them. They all wrote it down, and they thought this was a great idea. So we passed something on from us. I didn't know we were as unique as we were in our structuring of our agendas. He wrote a lovely note saying, thank you for being champions of civility in our Let's Talk session at the VML Annual Conference. You accomplished everything Michelle and I had hoped. She's the executive director. It's no easy feat to be instructive and inspiring to other community leaders facing a variety of challenging situations while possessing widely different levels of experience. I'm deeply grateful for your willingness to share your energy, experience, and candor. And since I emerged from our discussion absolutely energized by the qualities of your leadership, I am confident that you planted some valuable seeds in the minds of those in attendance. My thanks and best wishes to you all. Matt. And he told me that his next talk is going to be on apathy and empathy. So there we are. We elected new officers for VML, and it's very interesting, and this is exciting. Our newly elected president comes from the far reaches of Southwest Virginia, Pennington Gap. How about that? Vice Mayor Jill Carson is our new VML president. For those who might not remember where Pennington Gap is, it is in the sparsely populated Lee County. Pennington Gap is the most populous town of Lee County. In the 2000 census, its population was 1,781. It speaks to the democratic approach of VML. You don't have to be a big, Guess who was president for VML in 2004, 2005? His name is up here in the lobby outside this council chamber, and it was let's see, who was that now? Tom Starnes. How about that? He was president, and so it's time we get moving on that. I see a man who's about to serve another 4 years.
We're not counting any chickens before they hatch.
Okay, and there's a lot to be learned from the VML Annual Conference, and so many concurrent sessions, so much of the town and cities send a group of representatives. I strongly advise it. we do the same thing in the future, that we cover that, because it's really, really rich in its knowledge and information that it conveys.
Dick, thank you so much for representing us so well at the VML. I don't know, I won't speak for everybody, but I don't know that there could be a better representative for the city of Radford at that conference, so thank you.
Well, thank
We're
you.
so appreciative of
I
that.
thank the city for allowing me to attend. I do.
Charlie, what do you have for us this evening?
I only have one comment, and I guess it's be the second shout out to one of the community churches. I wanted to thank the First Apostolic Church for packing the house last week and bringing a really nice conversation around their request to develop some property. I thought that was a great example of government and community having a good discourse and coming up with a solution to make good use of what limited property we have. As my grandfather used to say, who was in some type of real estate development all his life, some of the toughest decisions are around land because God is not making any more of it on this planet.
Remember your apostles in your name, and don't forget the Samaritans.
Well, and I wanted to add my thank you to Community Life Church for the wonderful messages they've sent to all of us. I was very personally touched by that as well. You know, these jobs can be a little bit challenging at times, and it's nice when someone says thanks. And so that's really appreciated. We're excited for so many things going on, and we're going to be working with Jenny and David to get out some additional messaging in the next week or two about some of the wonderful things that are happening in the city of Radford. David gave you some sneak previews tonight of what's going on. A culmination of a lot of years of work are starting to come to fruition here as we move toward the last quarter, through the last quarter of this calendar year. So I'm excited. I want to say to all my members of council that are here, thank you all for all the work that you've done to make that happen, because along with city staff, it takes a tremendous amount of time and energy to try to get these things done, to apply for these grants, to conceptualize projects, to work with citizens, to do everything under the sun to try to make this community better. And we're so appreciative. I did stir up a little hornet's nest last week. I got on social media and said, hey, if there's one thing you could improve in Radford, what would it be? And, 500-600 comments later, it was a good discussion. I think the best part about the discussion, there were a handful of things that were pointed out that we said, we probably could do a little bit better with that. But the vast majority of things we heard were things that are in the pipeline. One of the nice pieces that we have is that we do have, as David said, $600,000 or $700,000 worth of paving projects coming online in the next 6 to 9 months. We have a significant project with Main Street that you've heard about if you've come to our meetings, to really enhance that portion of the downtown section of Radford, and partnerships with the university to bring in new jobs, new opportunities, new possibilities for our citizens. So the nice part is we're all on the same page for the most part. And that's a good thing, because, again, you sit up here and you say, I think this could work, maybe this will happen, but you don't always get the citizen engagement. Now, there are times when citizen engagement can feel pretty warm, and it stays pretty busy, but I was happy to have the conversation, and the good news was, like I said, we've got an awful lot of this stuff in process, so that's good. But the even better part, when there are 4 or 5 things that are pointed out that are fairly easy for us to work on and help make people's lives better, all the better. And so the conversation is a good thing to continue to have. We also encourage folks to come to city council meetings and participate. While it is great to have us online, there's nothing like the live experience.
And it's so much fun.
You never knew it could be like this.
I don't know about that. I had my fill of being online.
But it is good, and I feel really proud at our efforts of transparency and connectivity, utilizing electronic messaging, not only through the pandemic, but prior to that, and over the last 4 years, for us to be able to reach out to people. If you're not able to be here on Monday night, or whenever we happen to get together, you can visit us electronically and understand what's going on. We do encourage folks to come out and talk with us. It's important to have that conversation here. It's important for folks to come speak during citizen comment and say, I'm a little worried about something. Let's talk about it. Because that's how we know. And that's how we're able to make a difference together in our community. I need a drum roll. Can I have a drum roll, please? For the last 6 months, the internet has been full of the tree vote. Last time we were here, Jesse Kelly presented a great bit of information on the trees. I'm still waiting for the drum roll to continue. And the winner is the Eastern Redbud. Ta-da! So the Radford Redbud. We love our redbuds. The little heart-shaped leaves are the heart of the New River Valley. So there you go. By far, the Eastern Redbud was the most popular choice. Second place,
Dick, the pawpaw was way up there.
the pawpaw was second place. So,
That's what kept Mary Draper.
well, and again, having these discussions is a good thing because the Beautification Commission would like to do two things. They would like to work with council in the city to establish the ordinance for a city tree of the redbud, but also to recognize the both the pawpaw and I believe there was an additional tree, I think it was the silver bell. Hold on, let me make sure I get it right. Yeah, the Carolina silver bell as trees of significant cultural, natural heritage to the city of Radford. And so there's some nice opportunity for education and additional support. But your Radford Redbud is the official tree for the city of Radford. Recommendation from the vote and the Beautification Commission, and then the city will receive that recommendation from our advisory commission for us to be able to make a decision. So, fun news with that. David, I had one quick question. One question I did have from a lot of folks is the street sweeper. I know we've got one on order. When will it be here? Do we know? November, maybe?
No, years from now. It's hung up in all of the.
Okay.
Getting the pieces, so. The
Okay.
street sweeper, we keep fixing things on it, and it's still out there running.
Okay. So the street sweeper is still running, folks, and,
Summer of next year.
okay.
And our sanitation truck is the same way, kind of like the fire trucks and things, ambulances we've ordered are 2 and 3 years out. We're having to place orders very early. In fact, Jeff and I have been talking about cars for the very same reason, that they may be a while before we're able to get police cars. Everybody's in the same situation. There's one part or component missing, but, we hope for the best, but right now, I would say spring to early summer of '23.
Okay, so a little later than we thought. So I may be out there with a broom in your neighborhood, you never know. But we are working to keep our streets clean and clear, and we'll keep rolling from there.
What we've got now is running every street.
Right.
It's gonna take us several weeks to get through everything.
Absolutely.
We were all thrilled to find out how much our cars are worth. Holy mackerel,
Well, I will say, though, I'm proud of this council for taking some action because we did help provide some relief to our citizens with the car decal fee. It's not all the money in the world, but at least it's something, and we will keep an eye on this so that as we go through the next year or two with the changing valuations of things, we can try to be on top of that. One other quick thing, in addition to adding to Jesse's comment about Craft and Draft coming up here on the 22nd of October, there's a brand new event that Radford University Honors Program is sponsoring. It's an Appalachian Symposium, Mountains, Rivers, and Roads, that is going to be on Friday and Saturday, the 21st and 22nd of October. It is not just limited to Radford University folks, it's for everybody. And the whole point is to talk about our place in Appalachia, to talk about some of the challenges we face, some of the opportunities we have, and to conceptualize the possibilities that are out there. So I hope you will participate. Many of the folks who are coming for the conference are coming to Craft and Draft. And so that good old mountain heritage and mountain socialization will take place right here on Glencoe Mansion lawn, and we will have a good time together. And that's all I have right now. I would like to make a motion that we enter into closed session for discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or